The gun issue in the United States is a complex and challenging societal phenomenon, deeply rooted in the nation's history, culture, and politics. Let's take a detailed look at the current situation, the problems, and the reasons behind them. First, let's start with the sheer number of guns in the U.S., which is unparalleled globally. There are around 400 million guns in America, while the population is only 330 million. This means there are more guns than people in the country. To put this into perspective, in countries like Australia or the UK, where gun control is strict, most people may never even see a gun in their lifetime. But in the US, many households have guns tucked away in cabinets, under beds, or even in car trunks. Next, let's talk about gun violence, which has become a major concern. In 2024 alone, there were over 600 mass shootings, defined as incidents with 4 or more victims. These are not just abstract statistics, but horrifying events with real victims. For example, the 2017 Las Vegas shooting at a music festival saw a gunman firing from a hotel window with modified semi-automatic rifles, killing 60 people and injuring over 400. People who went to enjoy a concert with family and friends suddenly found themselves running for their lives. Similarly, the 2022 Uvalde school shooting involved an 18-year-old gunman who killed 19 innocent children and 2 teachers, once again igniting national debates about school safety. But gun violence isn't limited to mass shootings. It's also prevalent in everyday life. For instance, in cities like Chicago, hundreds of gun-related crimes occur each year, often tied to gang violence. One poignant story is that of John, a young black boy living in Chicago's South Side. His father was killed in a gang-related shooting, and his mother was permanently disabled after being shot during domestic violence. Stories like John's are tragically common, and guns are a persistent shadow over their lives. Another often overlooked issue is the link between guns and suicide. In the U.S., a majority of gun deaths are actually suicides. Easy access to firearms increases the likelihood of impulsive actions, leading to irreversible outcomes. For instance, a 16-year-old girl named Amy took her father's handgun from a drawer after failing an exam, turning a moment of despair into an irreversible tragedy. Stricter gun control could potentially prevent such heartbreaking incidents. Now, why has the U.S. ended up in this situation? To understand, we need to go back in history. In the late 18th century, the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution granted people the right to keep and bear arms. At the time, this was meant to support state militias for national defense, but over time, it became interpreted as an individual's fundamental right to own guns. The 19th century saw the rapid growth of the American firearms industry, with brands like Colt and Winchester making guns affordable and widely available. By the 20th century, gun culture had become deeply ingrained in American society, particularly in rural areas where firearms were used for hunting, sport shooting, and protecting farms. Imagine a 12-year-old boy receiving a rifle as a birthday gift. It's an ordinary event in parts of America, but unthinkable in many other countries. In addition to cultural factors, politics and interest groups play a significant role in the gun issue. The National Rifle Association, NRA, one of the most influential lobbying organizations in the U.S., spends millions annually to oppose gun control legislation. For example, after the 2012 Sandy Hook school shooting, which killed 20 children, the Obama administration proposed a law to strengthen background checks. Despite over 90% of Americans supporting the measure, the bill failed in Congress, largely due to the NRA's opposition. Situations like this leave many Americans feeling frustrated and powerless. Why is gun control so hard to achieve? In states like Texas, gun culture is a way of life. Many believe that owning a gun isn't just a right but a necessity for self-defense. Their argument is, criminals will always find a way to get guns, so ordinary people need them to protect themselves. Meanwhile, the fragmented legal system in the U.S. exacerbates the issue. For example, California bans assault weapons, but neighboring Arizona allows them, making it easy for firearms to be trafficked across state lines. However, there are some positive examples to look at. Take Australia, for instance. After a devastating mass shooting in 1996, the Australian government implemented strict gun laws and a massive gun buyback program. Since then, mass shootings in Australia have become exceedingly rare. Many American gun control advocates see Australia as a model, but they also recognize that replicating its success in the U.S. is incredibly challenging. In summary, the gun issue in the U.S. is like a tangled web of history, culture, law, economics, and politics. Addressing it requires not only better education and stronger laws, but also a shift in public awareness and attitudes. However, given the strong cultural and political resistance, this will likely be a long and arduous process. Until then, the country may continue to face more tragedies and debates over its gun policies. This is the reality of America's gun problem and a sobering reminder of the challenges ahead.